All right, so greetings and welcome back to CodeWiki. So this is just another lab that is part of my journey to get certified using Google Cloud Platform and using their products. All right, and today our lab is going to be focusing on product recommendations using Cloud SQL and Spark. And basically, what lab was just going over here is just basically the general day-to-day of a data engineer who works with the Google Cloud Platform. So basically, what we have here is that we have our storage, our data stored in one area, and our computation done in another area of our platform. You just always remember that we store our data in one spot, and it's time to use it. We take it out of storage and we use it in our computation. And now the computation that's taking place here is going to be machine learning. And the goal of this project here is to provide recommendations to users based on the information on rentals in a given certain area, right? The pricing, the size, the accommodations, the neighborhood, demographics, all such and such, right? And we're going to be using cloud storage, we're going to be using cloud SQL, and we're going to be using data prop to achieve those needs. So those are APIs which we're going to enable, we're going to get to use it, and we're going to see how we can use machine learning and big data to achieve the end of this project. So let's go ahead and get started. First things first, we want to just go ahead and we want to go ahead and I will start out with storage, right? We want to go ahead and create a bucket, right? In Google Cloud Platform, right? We go ahead and we have our storage buckets. So, right, storage buckets have to be unique. So I'm gonna go ahead and just name them uniquely, like cell, using the project ID. We go ahead and create a bucket, and right, this is the storage part when it comes to data, right? So what we want to do is we want to go ahead, get our data, right? And here, SQL CSV here, it is saved as SQL, right? Not that large. Files are not that large, right? So that we can get this example going, but obviously in industry work or production time, we will be dealing with a lot more data, right? So now this is all that our storage needs to do. Now, several things we need to get it done in SQL. We need to set up a database. We need to set up the database cluster. We need to set up the table. We just need to make sure a lot of things are configured right so that our SQL database can interact well with Dataproc, right? This is going to be the compute part when it comes to dealing with big data. Right, so now I'm going to go over to SQL, to our SQL API. Right, if it's not enabled, just go ahead and enable Cloud SQL. At this point, we create the instance and pay attention. I'm going to choose MySQL for this demo. We're going to be using MySQL. And like I said, the instructions will all be posted in the description here. Right, so the instance ID, I'm going to go ahead and try to create it as rentals. Resume, and important, we're just going to name this instance rent, right? This is what we want our MySQL database to be. Go ahead and hit create. Don't be worried too much about the database version, right? Well, now, as that takes as rent is going to take its time to set up, next thing we want to do is you just want to go get our data proc set up. We're just going to go ahead and head over to Dataproc. We should go ahead and create a cluster. Right, and then we go ahead and create this Dataproc cluster. Remember, this is compute. So you just want these two APIs, right, instances for APIs running in the same area. As you can see, right, as our SQL database cluster instance is being generated, right, its location is in US Central 1A. Want to make the region global, and want to make the zone US Central 1A like so. Right, cluster is standard, but the machine, the master nodes right? We want actually to use N1-72. Same thing for the worker nodes, right? N1-72, and we want the nodes at the minimum to be 2. We want all these to be set, right? Like I said, we're going to have this all value appear here, right? So you could always check. I'll have this all in the link below. Go ahead and create our data talk cluster, right? Which will take a while, right? And these will take a while. So when it comes to data proc and SQL, it might take a while. So we will resume the video whatsoever. Right. So now our SQL instance is set up. What you can do is you can connect. Right. Just want to take note of the IP address. Right. If you want to go ahead and connect. Right. And now that password that we had, right, you just want to go ahead and use that password like so. Not too worried, so you can just see my password. Right, this takes a while, right? So once you're and another tip when using Cloud SQL and we want to connect to the instance that work with the instance, just want to stay logged in. Try not to close the console. Very annoying to log yourself in, right? And just in case you have a password issue, you can head over to users and right, edit. Right now we're root. We can add another user account if you like. Go ahead, change the password. Super simple to change it. But when trying to get in there, just for security reasons, right? Definitely we are kept out, right? So we're gonna just go ahead and show the databases in there. Make sure it's working normal, that there's no issue. Now we're gonna go ahead and in the description I'll provide, want to copy the SQL, run the SQL, so we can set up our database, right? Which will be known as recommendation spark. Okay, once we do that, right, we definitely, what we need to do is we need to import our data from storage, and we have that set up properly in the CSV. So right now we're going to go over to our storage bucket, which is that unique, which is project ID that we had set up, right, CSV. We're going to place it into the database, which is recommendation Spark, right? We're going to do, we're going to use the database, right? This is the database that we're going to be working with, and show the tables. And for the data for accommodation CSV, you want to go ahead and import that into accommodation, right? And I want to just, for some reason, they don't allow us to import while something else is being imported. I say screw that. I'm going to try to import again. All right, so let's actually wait. And right, we're going to do the same for ratings. Place in recommendation Spark. Go ahead, rating table, import like so. And now as we're updating, right, we just want to just play with it. Right, you want to look at the ratings. Here is some data, just a little overview of how SQL works and the output that you get. Right, if you want to look at the number of ratings, we get 1186. And now what we want to do is we want to go ahead and start trying to generate our machine learning model. Right, so the cluster represents the database cluster, which is rentals, and then Cloud SQL represents the name of the Cloud SQL instance, which is rent. I have rental here. I'm going to go about changing that promptly. Right, and I'll just open this up. If we have errors, it just means that we have an error in here. Just want to make sure the data product name is rentals, and in SQL, the name is rent for Cloud SQL. Run everything. Everything should work as planned. Now, want to go ahead and clear. First of all, we just want to make sure we exit out of MySQL. So to exit out of MySQL, type in exit, right? Close the cloud shell, that's okay. All right. Not too interested in connected to Cloud SQL, but running this code on the dash tool. Right, you want to click yes. You get an error. That means you got one of these wrong. And once you see patching Cloud SQL instance, we are ready. Our Cloud SQL is ready to be used with data. So now what we need to do is after that, we're going to have to go ahead and grab a sample and machine learning model, right? And we're going to be using this code here, right? In order for have our accommodations and ratings to populate our recommendations. Right, and now we're going to go ahead and edit a file. We're going to edit the machine learning model. Right, so what we need to do is we have our IP address, Cloud SQL instance IP, right? It's not clearing out that anymore. It is going to be this IP address. Right, we're going to go ahead and get that changed. Right, and our password, as like so, is given here. Right, you're going to replace it with your password, and all right, we're going to go ahead and save. And we're going to go back to our terminal, like so. Right, and that basically our machine learning model is ready to be downloaded. And so now we're going to go over to our data prop, which is set up and ready to go. And we're going to get a job set up. We're going to submit a job, right? We're going to use PySpark as your job type. Job ID, don't worry about it. And our Python file, what we want to do is you want to go and grab that. You want to go and grab that, right? But files, right, storage should be in one place, and files should be in a number. So we could go ahead and we want to copy our machine learning model, right? And we want to put that into storage, right? And this environment variable just targets where our the project ID is, which is the name of the storage bucket. If you actually go ahead and take a look, right? So if you go over to console, I could get there through developers, but it's okay. And we go ahead, right? We see our machine learning model, right? This is where our file is, right? GS, Google file, it's the Google file system. And unfortunately, we can't do a drop down, but in real life, you know, this is like a computer where all your files are stored. So it will just make sense that you type this out instead of have Google try to create a drop down when you might not enter it. Right. We want to go ahead and submit. Right. And we want to wait for this to succeed, which will take a while. So once it finished running, we'll come back. Yeah, and at the same time, what you want to do is you want to just go back and you want to be able to want to log into your MySQL instance, right, through the Cloud Shell in order to see the results of your data product job, right? So now the machine learning model has ran, and now we're just going to ask for some queries that were populated in the recommendations in the table. And we're just going to see some of the daily results that you might see in the industry, right? So to see how many recommendations the model made in total, right? You want to we want to see, but let me relog in, right? Control C, right? It's a hotkey. It's a hotkey for us to use, but when you actually use it here, it things actually end up taking a while. So always try to really Control C. All right, and let's just see how many recommendations the machine model made. Slack, right? But in order to work with the correct database, you have to type in this command, use, and then the name of the database, and now you can actually take a look at the data, right? So, right, how many recommendations, right? Did the ML model make 125, and say we had a user in our application and the user ID was 10, right? We're going to take a look at the recommendations that the machine learning model made, right? So, right, as you can see, prediction of 0.2 on something that you'll like, right? This user must make a lot of money. They probably live closer to Seattle. Okay, 24 rooms, right? More like a mansion. All right, a castle, right? Right, definitely something 2,900 a month in Seattle. Right, for the rich. It's a very interesting mortgage rate, right? But now we can see out of all of our data, right, just from so much data, right? Right now we are able to provide the best prediction, right, for a single user, right? And that's how they're able to use machine learning. And I would say it's at an intermediate level, but the way this presentation went, I really do think it's a very basic understanding of cloud storage, um, cloud SQL, and cloud data product in order to achieve the end goals that we needed to here. Right? So thanks for taking time to go through this tutorial. If you have any questions, please leave in the comments below. Please, once again, like, share, and subscribe. And as you go along with this coding journey, same way, any way I could support you in your coding journeys as well, let me know. Thank you all.